And I watched him dodder into the tree and reach up and hold it. And I had one of those moments of recognition where I thought to myself, how many more springs is that guy going to see? Or myself, for that matter, or any of us. And there he was on this spring, becoming part of the tree in some way. Just that moment where, you know, the simplicity of his gesture was to hold himself up, but he became the trunk, and he just sort of seemed to be floating up into those blossoms, and my heart went out to him. This is up in Inwood Park also, and I'm always amused when I see this picture because you could see they came for the day. I was with a friend, a famous museum director, and he looked at that and he said, "Oh, that's just like the painting Déjeuner sur l'herbe." And I said, "Really, with the toilet paper and everything?" He said, No. He said, "But it's a modern version of it." And I said, "Oh, you intellectuals, you got to see it from the past." This is Fort Greene, and you know, there are lots of people in most of the pictures, but you know, not every park has the wilderness that I was searching for. But I had to go to the parks to see what was there, and then you get something else in return. And I thought it was lovely to see them using the space that way. So this is the Bronx River. Now, since none of you are from the Bronx, I could tell you all about it. But I grew up on a tributary of this river. Now, this river, as you can see from the shallowness of the water, was only about 8 inches to 2 feet deep. So you can imagine how shallow a tributary was where I lived. But it was enough of a place that as I grew up, I mean, there was an elevated station on the corner. But in the lots where I played and where this river was, my friends and I learned to trap rabbits and snakes and birds and turtles, and sometimes skunks were there. It was an amazing kind of rural experience for a New York City kid to have. So I went back to the Bronx River, way up to the top of the Bronx, and I got into a canoe. There's a group called the Bronx River Alliance. If you wanted to do this, you could go and find them on the web, and they would take you down the Bronx River in a canoe. And it's a fantastic journey. It takes 3 hours to go from the top of the Bronx all the way out to the East River. And you go down incredible waterways. On one side is a highway, on the other side are tenements, but you wouldn't know this when you're on the river. You know. And there are things that you see in the river. I mean, they've cleaned it up a lot. Nonetheless, I saw an entire stoplight in the river. The entire thing, as well as a cab door. But for the most part, it was cleaned up. And there are waterfalls. There are 3 waterfalls that you have to portage the canoe around. So it's a real adventure. And I used it in the design of the book. I tried to make, when you design a book, well, you lay it out. You've got to figure out how to get from one point to the next. What should it be? Should it be the woods and then the coastline, or should it be the boroughs? Should it be the parks? One has to find the form for the work. And for some reason, the Bronx River gave me a kind of a spine. I thought I'll start at the very top of the Bronx and work my way through the boroughs like an adventure and wind up at the very bottom of Staten Island, where when you stand there, there's nothing but the sea in front of you. So we could go from the top of one to the bottom of the other. Now, you probably all know this place, but I know you've never been in there because it's gated. At the bottom of Central Park, right between the Plaza Hotel on 5th Avenue and the Ritz-Carlton on 6th Avenue, there's a pond at 59th Street. And in the pond is what looks like an island. It's actually a small 3.5-acre peninsula. And it's called the Hallett Sanctuary. And back in 1932, Robert Moses decided to take it off limits and prohibit anybody from going in there. So they gated this place. And because my brief was to do the wilderness, I went to the commissioner and said, look, this is the last piece of wilderness in Central Park that's untouched. How about giving me the key? He said, sure, why not? So I have the key to this place. I don't charge much if you want to come in for a tour, but I had to raise funds for the project. So. Anyway, in this 3.5 acres, it's nature. Things fall down, they leave them there. Coyotes come in from the suburbs, see the theater, they eat out, then they go to the Hallett for dessert, and they feast on the ducks and the geese. I'm not kidding. I saw a wild turkey inside the Hallett Sanctuary, a real wild turkey, a few steps from 5th Avenue. That could be a kid's story, couldn't it? Anyway, I would go there really every week and just hang out for an hour or so. It was my private secret garden in a way. And it has in it the same kind of complexity and tumult and roughness that nature has. And yet this is what it looks like if you step outside of it. This is the last bit of it sitting in the pond. Hey, what do you know? It's over. Could have made it longer, but, you know, it seemed like the right... So, nature just flies by when you're having a good time. I'm happy to have conversation or, you know, take questions. Yes, this gentleman first. You, sir. Yeah. Okay, yes.
I just want to know if you got to every city park and if any particular corner of any one really sticks out in your mind.
Did you hear? He said, if I went to every city park and if one corner somewhere in the city stuck out in my mind. Well, there are 800 parks in New York, so I didn't go to all of them, but I did go to somewhere between 60 and 70 parks. And, you know, over the 3 to 4 years that the project took. And, I mean, really, the Bronx River is special to me because of its length. I mean, why is it that it's the ones that you can't get to? North Brother Island is magical. It has buildings, decaying buildings with trees growing from the ground up through the roof. So you walk into them, it's astonishing. Udall's Cove in Queens is a very special little park. It was once an industrial boat building area, and now it's a cove. It's the last cove in New York City before it becomes Long Island. And it's magic out there. I like Wolf Pond Park in Staten Island. That's the one with the swamp, and it has the beach, and there's something just special about it. You know, you feel like you're far away, and you're really just, you know, a ferry ride and a train ride or a car ride to the end. So there are a lot of parks in the boroughs. There is a park, but none of you are from the Bronx. There's a park called Seton Falls Park. You know this. Look, in Seton Falls Park, Adrian Benepe calls it our Grand Canyon because it's a ravine. It starts off there's a plateau